Hey guys, Mustached here to review the series Invincible Fight Girl. Now, just pretense that this season isn't quite over yet, but I've gotten a good feel for where it's going and where it started, so I feel like it's a good time to speak on its behalf, despite its not season end happening quite yet, but hey. So I first saw a trailer for this a few times. I don't remember if it was near the Game Awards or prior to it, but around that time where I came across the initial this video between her and that guy in the top right fighting each other with some pretty solid animation. Very anime inspired, in fact. So I decided to give it the full watch, and I was pleasantly surprised. So, this series follows a young girl named Andy who lives in an island filled with accountants. However, there's a separate island, and I'm assuming that there are probably several others, but the one that we're primarily focused on is an island that has wrestlers. And she, ever since she was super small, was engaged by the world of wrestling, brought into a match that she saw, and completely fell in love with the work. So you have a pretty traditional story in this light, where her parents want her to follow in her footsteps, while she wants to go on this journey and become this wrestler. So she's getting ready to almost follow in that said footsteps, but the stars align, as it were, as the wrestlers need to get their taxes under order, so they have to go to the accountants. So she figured this would be the perfect opportunity to ask if anybody could be a wrestler, more so focused that question on herself. She asked a set of individuals, which laughed in her face. But she's told by this granny character, the one you can see on the top left of her, that she doesn't need permission. You either are born a wrestler or not. So, with that implanted in her head, and seeing the chaos that these individuals who are now making life harder for the accountants, she steps up and makes her way to fight them in a proper match. Every time a match is called, the corporation behind what makes wrestling wrestling in this world sends a wrestling ring to wherever a match has been officially declared by both opponents. So, that is our setup. She manages to use the moves that she learned earlier on to at least hold them off long enough for the granny to do her bit to subdue these enemies. But this revelation of her fighting came at the cost of her parents finding out, of course. Once she unfolds her full love for this as a thing that she wants to do, the parents are supportive, so they want to send her to a better location where she can fulfill her dreams. From this point moving forward, she comes across this young, money-focused individual who he's trying to initially scam her, but in the process they sort of form an unlikely duo. And later on, the two of them come across, he infers her to this meat grinder location where they come across this relatively super young, but super bulked out kid who, wants to be a wrestling journalist, but has been prompted, much like her, to be in the world of wrestling, though in this turn of events. So she fights, but despite losing this fight, which is, I think, a mark of a great show, is seeing that she's not perfect, and she even had her struggles in the first match, that she still gained the respect of the fighter that she came across, and he allowed his brother, the brother is the one on the top right again, as I mentioned, so the younger brother joins her, and now we have our dynamic trio. So they are now focused on helping her become a true wrestler, and they discover that the old granny is one of her most idolized individuals that she's been following. Her first match scene was with her, and that she was in fact that wrestler. So she wants to be trained by her. So the granny wants to get rid of them. She wants nothing to do with this. She just kind of wants to be left alone and be begrudged. So after priming this, she sets out a challenge to do a perfect strike on this punching bag 10 times in a row. And she assumes Fight Girl, as the title suggests. She's never actually called Fight Girl. She's more called Accountant Girl a lot more, though her real name's Andy. She ends up trying to punch this thing and not getting it. So she gets a demonstration from the old granny, who's still able to do this power strike. This true power strike, as it were. And after getting one, she's blown away, but the other two want to help her out. Unfortunately, they get, due to their interfering, one way or another, they end up resetting the full thing. So they figure the best way to go about this is perhaps to try to find something else to alleviate some time out of it. They come across this canyon where her old opponents are now residing, who are now in a fatal feud between each other. The daughter is the one spurring this on, as we learn later on in the episode, and that matters sort of circle us all the way back to they're going to keep fighting with each other regardless. But it is the match with her that provides a much needed step forward in her progression to learn the secrets of this move that has propelled this fighter to be as tip-top as she is. She sees that the opponent can do it, but not to the same extent, with the powerhouse behind it, as it were. So, seeing this, she's able to take advantage and even win the battle, but at what cost, as I mentioned, as it alleviates back to her being driven away even by her own parents, being declared a monster of all things, since her body was bigger than perhaps, after being bound for so long, as the episode alludes to at some point, that now that she's unbound, that she's become quite something else. In seeing this, and seeing that hurt, she comes to a revelation that the granny has something more deeper, perhaps a deeper regression of why she had decided to leave the world of wrestling, but she still is aiming to move forward, and she's aiming to get that move. Despite everything, in the last episode I was able to watch, we see that a tournament is underway, and that she was willing to participate. Unfortunately, she was paired up against probably one of the worst opponents that would not provide her even the opportunity to do it. The guy literally knocks himself out And I must say, outside of that, this series is filled with a lot of comedic bits. And I mean a lot. I was finding myself laughing quite a bit throughout the season. You know, once or twice throughout the episode. And they're like 20 minutes per, so, you know, a good chunk of laughs. And I do think that the animation style carries it significantly as well, as I had mentioned previously. So I'm in. This series is really good. And I think that this season deserves its recognition. And who else is going to do it other than, you know, I haven't seen any reviews of this. Maybe they're out there. Maybe I have to search for it. I have not yet seen any thumbnails and people talking about this. It's still an ongoing season. So I figured I'd preempt this now and say that this is a solid 7 out of 10 show, perhaps with the potential to raise even higher heights. I definitely already see the potential for the greatness. It has a lot of comedy, its action is top tier, you know, or at least very solid. I don't know if I would, you know, there's definitely moments where the animation is definitely kicking it up, and, you know, very, raising it to where you would see in typical anime shonen type shows. But we're following a good archetype, which is probably the most important aspect of this. We have a character whose journey is that of struggling and progressing through her matches. That is very compelling. So her journey is what's the most compelling thing about this show. And that, to me, signals a solid show when you're behind the main character. So yeah, definitely check this out if you have not heard of it. I'm not sure if this was on Netflix or not yet, or where I found this in terms of watching it. But I digress, because I'm watching a bunch of other stuff, so I forgot where this was featured, but I digress. Anyway, if you ended up enjoying this review, check it out for yourselves. And if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. Why not head over to my petition to help out small YouTubers? Second, to my PayPal, where you can support me and my channel directly. And third, to my Discord server, where you can join, collab, shield, all that cool stuff. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.